If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel. And I am back with another episode of Under the Radar, and this week we're talking about more albums that came out on Friday the 13th. Oh god, Jason Voorhees again. Anyways, so we got 3 albums we're going to be talking about briefly here. And, well, 2 of them have a bit of similarities, 1 not so much. So we're kicking things off with Comaniac with None for All. This is an upstart Switzerland thrash metal band. And as I was listening to this album, like, the guitar tone, like, there's a bit of a sinister tone going on, which made me think Slayer at first. But some of these riffs, especially in the first half of the album, kind of gave me vibes of Metallica a little bit, but I would say there's a lot of hardcore breakdowns going on this album, which kind of makes me think, could this be considered crossover thrash? After all, the vocals kind of have a little bit of more of that, like, punky style to it. And, well, speaking of the vocals, that was one of the things that kind of turned me off about this album. I wasn't the biggest fan of the vocals on this album. But to make up for it, you do have some ripping guitar leads, and I actually like how some of the leads and even some melodies that come up are harmonized. You even get occasional classic metal gallops, and probably the biggest redeeming factor about this album is the production. Like, the production was pretty solid, but the mix was excellent. The bass is audible all throughout, and you can hear great bass work going on throughout the album. And even some tasteful acoustic touches come up here and there. But also, while the vocals were while the vocals weren't great, some of the songs I felt just did not fit on this album. It almost feels like half of the album's good, and the other half is just very, very uneven. And for those reasons, I'm giving this one 6.5 out of 10. It's average to okay. It's not bad. There are some good songs, but then there are songs where it just feels uneven or just flat out don't belong on a thrash album. At least in my personal opinion. After all, when it comes to thrash, I tend to have some opinions. Just saying. So now on to the second album for this week, and that is Decembre Noir with Your Sunset, My Sunrise. So this also came out on Friday the 13th, and this is Metal Archives, they're from Germany, but Metal Archives has them listed as a melodic death doom band. I will say, I think Metal Archives, you might be off by just a tiny bit. It does occasionally get doomy, but the doomiest I hear it get to is almost like a Black Sabbath doom's tempo. But other than that, I would say this is more just melodic death metal with some more downtrodden grooves, because there's some more up-tempo stuff going on here, and even some, like, straight-up death metal chugs going on this album, and even one track having blast beats. Well, just periodically. But I love the amazing guitar harmonies going on with this album, and it goes through so many different moods. It goes from sounding dark to sounding melancholic to sounding flat out pissed off. And even some sorrowful clean guitars pop up here and there throughout the album as well that are just peppered in. And then some somber tremolo melodies, especially whenever a song reaches its big crescendo, somber tremolo melodies come in to kind of give it a little bit of that black metal or melodic death metal vibe. But I would say, like I said, I don't think it's as doomy as Metal Archives says it is. I would say this is more just straight up melodic death metal with some downtrodden grooves and occasional doom moments. So if you are a fan of bands like, I would say, October Tide, In Mourning, Insomnium, and Nailed to Obscurity, You will dig this one. I actually quite enjoyed this one. I give this 8.5 out of 10. I thought this was really fucking good. And, yeah, nothing more, nothing less. But now we get to the final album, and that is On Thorns I Lay with their self-titled album. This came out on Season of Mist, and this is a band I became aware of thanks to Horror Master, Ricky, my co-host on the Horseman podcast and Shadow Call podcast, and frequent stream hangout dude. But he turned me on to this band with their last album, Threnos, which came out in 2020, and I thought that was exceptional. For those who don't know, this is a Greek death doom band, dare I say melodic death doom, or even like gothic death doom, because holy shit, this album goes through so many things. You get these touches of symphonic metal coming up here with the more orchestral atmosphere that pops up on these songs. This is definitely the most melancholic album out of the three, and one of the most somber albums of the year, I will say. But it carries a lot of great tension throughout. It's very melodic. You do get, like, death metal breakdowns pretty much across the board. Like, whenever it gets into these, like, breakdown chug moments here and there, it feels very death metal, but it still retains that doom side to the band. Lots of melodic death metal touches, filled with anguish, this album. There's even some, like, masterful dissonant melodies that show up. Some triplet chugs come in rarely here and there. Somber acoustic parts. Atmospheric ripping guitar solos. Even the final track has some, like, Middle Eastern sections. And the penultimate track almost made me think of Opeth. Like, it got a little bit proggy, and it got into this, like, triplet swing that you would associate with Opeth. So if you are a fan of Swallow the Sun, Septic Flesh, I would say, Paradise Lost, and early Catatonia, oh my god, this is a masterful album. 10 out of 10. Man, this weekend was just filled to the brim with great fucking music. Tomb Mold, Sulphur Aeon, and now On Thorns I Lay with a 10 out of 10 score. This is just making my album of the year list more complicated. But yeah, of course these are all just my opinions, but what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, in the description will be the albums in question. Until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.